Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to another live session. Welcome to all of our new and returning listeners. So, if you're joining me tonight, I take it that you missed the big event. You all didn't get raptured. Well, for those who may be feeling down and out about missing the rapture, there's a great video that I would love to recommend to you. The link is in the chat. You may want to check out this video, Still Waiting for the Rapture. We did this, I want to say a year, maybe a year and a half ago. It'll help you to really understand what the rapture is all about. You may want to send that to a friend, someone who's really struggling right now. I mean, I heard about folks selling all their stuff, giving all of their things away. But look, when you don't have the understanding about the rapture, you will believe what Christians are saying about it. I mean, there are a lot of Christians who are starting to, speak against it. And talk about the history of it and where that came from. Hopefully, people will wake up and understand what the rapture is all about. It's when the tares are going to get out of here. They leave first. If you read the scripture, I mean, it all lines up to tell you who's going to be rooted out and moved out of here. But, I mean, people are deceived. So it's sad because, I mean, there are people who really believed that they were going to be raptured. But anyway, again, welcome to all of you who are joining me tonight for this session. Does it seem like we've been on breaking news roller coaster rides almost every single hour, minute? I mean, every time you turn around, there is breaking news. And I just had to take some time to tune it all out. I really think we need to just step away and refuse to listen to any of it for a while. And we may want to do this periodically just to avoid, remaining in that state of agitation, because it really can affect your spirit, your peace, if you tune into that every day, all day long. And maintaining our peace is vitally important right now in this season. I mean, you really need to walk in peace in order to deal with everything that's coming at us. The world is facing relentless conflicts and a wave of violence unseen since World War II, is what many reports are saying. And many see it, as a sign of impending doom. And when you feel like you have no hope, then yeah, it can disturb your peace. You begin to turn to things that won't help you, won't be able to help you. And folks are turning to a lot of things right now, to include witchcraft. It's on the rise. So, yeah, we need to take some time out to just sit in the Most High's presence and hear what he's saying to us in this season, in this hour. But hey, hit the like if you have not done that already. You're also welcome to subscribe if you have not subscribed to the channel and you enjoy the information that's being shared on the channel. I really invite you to go ahead and subscribe. So we're talking about some interesting things right now on the channel. We're witnessing a time when peace is going to be removed from the earth. Again, especially as we listen to all of the propaganda that's being spewed out right now. And it's being done purposely to get people riled up for their big event. So, family, there's a lot to talk about. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Listen to this next clip. It's the president making a statement right after Kirk was taken out.
And in the sense that we lost a great person. I'll be going on early Sunday morning. We're going to Arizona, taking some people with us on Air Force One. Maybe you people are going to be with us. I don't know. But we're going to be going Saturday early on Sunday morning. Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right.
He's accusing the left before there's any evidence, and then he's going to call them scum.
The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
Plan on investigating?
We'll see. We'll be announcing.
Okay.
They're already under investigation. You know, they're already under major investigation. A lot of the people that you would traditionally say are on the left.
They're already under?
Already under investigation.
So he is saying they are already under investigation. Exactly. Who's under investigation? So these are some things that we need to talk about. We need to look at these things because there's a lot happening right now. He said leftists are scum. Here's my question for you. When they say leftists and liberals, who are they talking about? Because they equate Democrats with leftists, and they tend to lump us in with the Democratic Party, whether we affiliate with them or not. How would someone identify a leftist or liberal if they didn't know anything about that person? There's no way to do that unless the person discloses it in some way, if they had white skin. But for us, we don't have to do or say anything because they automatically make assumptions based on skin color. Just take a look at who the degenerates started targeting after the dog whistle went out, saying that leftists were responsible. So when you weaponize skin color, you have identifiable targets when barbarians need to express their anger and hatred. When he said it's the leftists, the scums, it triggered an image in their minds, and they began to look for easy targets. Well, who's that? And what did we have to do with this? Nothing. But again, you don't have to do or say anything. What did innocent babies at a daycare center do to Zachary Newell? What did the worshipers at Emmanuel Baptist Church do to Dylan Roof? I mean, there are so many examples that you can point to proving that skin color is a threat, our skin color. So the puppet masters used the situation as an opportunity to turn the page on Epstein because nothing else had worked. It riled up their base, though, because we all know what they want to see. They've been waiting for a while for this impending war. Now I want you to listen to what the vice president had to say.
You can, of course, find one person of a given political persuasion justifying this or that or almost anything. But the data is clear. People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told.
That is the truth we must be told. But is it the truth?
So people on the left have been pointing to what happened in Minnesota, the Democratic lawmakers, and saying, you know, what about this? And so we're getting into this cycle of whataboutism. You understand the data better than I do, certainly. Give me your sense of what Vance was saying and the context where the truth lies.
Yeah, so just for background, I spent my entire career studying and working as a practitioner in countering terrorism. That includes Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah, far-left groups, far-right groups. I am agnostic. I have chased down extremists from every corner. every ideology. So I say this as objectively as I can. The vice president is absolutely inaccurate. I can tell you that from 2015 on, Charlottesville, we saw a spike in violent extremism coming from the right. Accelerationist groups like the Adam Waffen Division really took off for a while. Militia groups like the Patriot Front, Patriot Prayer, Oath Keepers, Three Percenters, Proud Boys, those are all far-right groups.
Hmm. Just think about everything that's being said right now, family. Think about everything that's being said. So these folks want us to believe that it's the far left, the leftists. So just like the president, J.D. Vance made accusations and gave their base a target to express their anger and frustrations. And it just so happens that the administration recently moved a study from the Department of Justice website. Some of you may have heard about that already. That showed right-wing domestic terrorism was far more common than left-wing or Islamist extremist domestic terrorism. So do you think the president and vice president knew about this study when they made those statements? Do you think they knew about it? Let's look at this report. The first thing that raises a red flag here is that they removed the study from the DOJ's website after Kirk was taken out. Just pause and think on that. The study said since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideologically motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamist extremists, including 227 events that took out more than 520 people. Vance says the American people should know the truth. Well, the truth is that the number of far-right attacks outpaces all other types of violent extremism. Why was the study deleted from the site? Because they need to have people believe the lie. They need their base to believe the lies. So they promote propaganda to shape the narrative. It does not have to be true. They just need to say it's true, and a lot of people will believe it. And really, that's what we see happening. They don't have to admit or prove anything. They just need to say it, and people will believe it. For example, many of you remember this. A few years ago, they started saying that Black Hebrew Israelites were extremists. This article from Program Extension at George Mason University says BHI extremism has been a persistent concern for law enforcement. Really? A persistent concern. Have you seen a lot of negative reports concerning BHI groups? Put it in the chat if you have. What extreme actions are they guilty of? Well, when you read the report, you're going to see that they identify a few incidences that may or may not have involved people who expressed an interest. They expressed an interest in BHI at some point. So the article says the last 7 years have been heralded as an unprecedented or having unprecedented frequency and lethality of terrorist attacks involving individuals who participated in or were otherwise inspired by BHI movement or its ideas. Now just pay attention to how it's worded. If you say there were lethal attacks by people inspired by BHI movement, and it's happening with unprecedented frequency, you're going to be saying that these attacks occur so often that it's always in the news. And people should be able to give specific examples. Like we can easily point to Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, Mother Emanuel Church, Eric Gardner, and on, Ahmaud Arbery. But how many Black Hebrew Israelite attacks can you think of? If you can think of them, put them in the chat. This article says the precise cause of this increase is unclear. It's unclear, they say. But now they're going to tell you who BHI appear to be targeting. It says it bears mentioning that the rise in violence, and now they're going to tell you who they are targeting. Listen. It's typically targeting ish individuals and spaces, and it correlates with simultaneous rise in anti-ish attacks in the US. Do you see how they shape the narrative to make it seem like the Rev 29ers are being violently attacked by our people? As I said, it does not have to be true. They don't have to prove it. All they have to do is say it to create an image in the minds of people, just like Trump and Vance did. Truly, the serpent is the father of lies. Now, catch this. If he is a father, then he has children. If he's the father of lies, then he has children. So white supremacy is a lie, and they know it, but it's a convenient tool. And political and church leaders know how to use that tool to get the desired response. They do it all the time. It's not just in the political realm. No, you have preachers, religious groups who are telling lies all the time.
The talk that we're referencing is the talk that takes your children according to their maturity at the proper time, the appropriate time, and says there are certain parts of town that you cannot go, and there are certain people that you cannot be around. If you go into a crowd of strangers and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're black strangers, there is 30 times more danger. Them's the facts.
And of course it has to be true because he said so. Let's see what else he says.
And it is actually a failure of your parental duty. White parents, please hear me. If you teach your children growing up, if you lie to them and say all people and all races of people in our country are the same, they are not. You are actually depriving your child of factual, truthful information that could save their life.
Did you catch that? Did you catch that? Them's the facts. You all. He also said that if there's someone who's black in our church, and you all, please tell me why he would have any black members in his church. Any. Why are they even there? If there's someone who's Black in our church and they've been in our church and we know them and they love the Lord Jesus Christ, great. We're not talking about that person. No, because we need your tithes and offering. But we're talking about when you go into a crowd of people. If you go into a crowd of strangers and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're Black strangers, there's 30 times more danger. Them's the facts. And he's not finished, you all. He's not finished. But what is he doing? He's repeating the same talking points that we were the most violent, most dangerous group of people to reinforce the narrative that white people are good and melanated people are bad. So he also suggests that Black parents should teach their children that many Black children and teens are reprobates and misbehaved and rebellious toward authority, including police. Now, what about the white teens? They're not reprobates. They're not misbehaving. They're not rebellious toward authority. So this guy, Webben, it says, is no stranger to making divisive remarks. Last year, he drew backlash for maintaining that he preferred to have a white doctor rather than a Black one because after being given the choice between a young Black and a young white doctor, he said it was more likely that the young Black professional was less qualified and got a free pass to start practicing medicine. So the white people are good. They're smart. They're intelligent. They're not DEI hires. And if you try to get information about the crime rates in America, you will see report after report that's basically saying the same thing because it props up the lies about white supremacy. It would lead us to believe that it must be true until you dig a little deeper. If it's true that our people are 30 times more likely to be violent, why do you also have numerous studies showing that Black people are 7.5 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of serious crimes than whites? And get this, the risk is even higher if the victim is white. Now, these are the known cases. So there are many that we don't even know about where they've been wrongfully convicted. This says Black people are about 7.5 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder in the US than are whites, and about 80% more likely to be innocent than others convicted of murder, according to a new report by the National Registry of Exonerations. The already disproportionate risk of wrongful conviction, the registry found, was even worse if the victim was white. The report, Race and Wrongful Convictions in the United States, this came out in 2022, reviewed the cases of 3,200 innocent defendants exonerated in the United States since 1989. This is just since 89. Black people, the researchers found, were 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted, were more likely to be the targets of police misconduct, and more likely to be imprisoned longer before being exonerated. How can that be possible, you all? How can that be possible? Why do we have so many people being wrongfully convicted if, as they say, Black people are 30 times more dangerous than whites? It's not adding up. It's not adding up. Here's another source: race and wrongful convictions in the United States. Well, let's take a look at what this one is saying. This says exonerations provide a view of criminal cases from the past that we couldn't see when they happened. When it comes to murder, the number of those wrongfully convicted were higher in the 80s and 90s. For cases where a man forced himself on a woman, you all know what I'm talking about, the report says many innocent defendants were exonerated by DNA tests in the decades since 1989. And guess who accused them? White women. The bulk of these Black men were accused by white women. For drug crimes, it says the picture is grim. Black and white Americans use illegal drugs at similar rates, but Black people are 19 times more likely to be convicted of crimes they didn't commit than white people. How is this possible, you all? How is this possible? So there's a problem here. If you have a number of reports saying our people are 30 times more violent, how can you have this many people who are now being exonerated? And you all are seeing them on the news. What color are they? The overwhelming majority. What color are they? Why are they now being exonerated? There's something wrong with that picture. Something seriously wrong with that picture. So based on exoneration statistics from the Innocence Project, police investigatory practices such as deception in interrogations, threats to witnesses and the accused, and tainted witness identification are factors of racial disparities and wrongful convictions. It says the cases of Black people exonerated from murder convictions are 50% more likely to involve police misconduct than those of white people exonerated from murder convictions. Not only that, this says people are more likely to misidentify a person of a different race, and white people are particularly bad at recognizing people who are not white. This is what the study says. Pretrial decisions by courts and prosecutors also greatly impact the likelihood of wrongful convictions for Black and brown people. Black and Latinx people accused of crimes are more likely to be detained pre-trial, putting their jobs, housing, and families at risk. So when prosecutors offer plea deals that allow a person to be immediately released, they will more than likely accept the plea deal. This says nearly 25% of those exonerated since 1989 pled guilty, and nearly 75% of those numbers were Black and brown people. We have a problem because this is not adding up. It's not adding up. This is significant, family. And we need to challenge the narrative about our people being more violent every chance we get. We can't let them continue to get away with just throwing out data that identifies our people as being more violent when they ignore data about right-wing extremists. Just remove it from the site. And we also need to push back with these exoneration numbers. Why are there so many of our people being exonerated decades later? And I'm not trying to condone anyone who's doing evil. Scripture says your sins will find you out. You can't engage in wicked behavior and get away with regardless of skin color. But we cannot ignore the fact that our people are being portrayed as being more violent, and then find out that many of them, too many of them, were wrongfully convicted. Why is that happening? There's a problem. Folks are intentionally lying. And too many of our leaders in positions of power are letting them get away with this. Why don't they know this? Why are they not questioning this? Why are they not putting the facts out there? You can't have that many people be wrongfully convicted of crimes and then continue to say, oh, 30%, 30%, like this white so-called pastor is saying. Something's wrong with that narrative. Okay, I guess you all can tell I'm a bit worked up about this. Yeah, this angers me. So we need to look at those who are deserving of the label they've been trying to place on us. This article from The Telegraph says global conflict levels highest since end of Second World War II. When you look at the conflicts happening in the world right now, not just America, which group of people seem to be the instigators of most of the turmoil? Put it in the chat. Which group of people? Let's see what you're all saying. Which group of people seem to be the instigators? Because, I find to believe that it's us. Saw says same people in all the conflicts worldwide. WP's, Georgetta says. Brother Calvin says, just missed it. You all are going too fast for me. I just had his response and that one went. He says Rev 29ers. Notorious Hebrew, more like Judas goats. Janet says YT folks. Roderick, YT folks. The Negro Unchained, Edom. Eliza, not us. The whole truth, so help me out. Cavemen. Brother Don, them folks. Ivan, ish folks. Deborah. That's the truth. Okay, so she's responding to someone else. So yeah, okay. I don't see too many of you saying us. Why do we have so many right now saying it's them? But yet, global conflicts highest or global conflicts levels highest since end of Second World War. We have to look at the perpetrators here. So basically, it's the children of Japheth. We have to look at the descendants of Japheth. And let's remember that Neanderthals basically whited out his bloodline after the flood. And we also know that Esau infiltrated that bloodline. So let's tell the truth. Let's take a look at this chart. Interesting information on this one. When you look at this chart, it will lead you to think that Africans are some of the most violent people on the face of the earth. Over 2 million deaths from armed conflicts between 1989 and 2024. The next highest would be the people in the Middle East. So they want us to believe that it's the melanated people. They don't think that they are the problem. And this chart is showing us where these atrocities happened, not who was actually responsible for it. For example, these numbers reflect the Rwandan massacre that happened in 1994, where it is estimated that between 500,000 to 800,000 people lost their lives. But which country instigated that conflict? Belgium. Belgium's role in the Rwandan genocide is overlooked. It's not talked about. But their involvement was significant and can be traced back to what happened at the end of World War I, when the League of Nations gave Belgium administrative control of Rwanda and Burundi. So here you see that the Brussels Times is now acknowledging how they fostered seeds of hate. This says, it is 30 years since the 100-day genocide in Rwanda that left at least 800,000 dead. 800,000. The hatred that drove the spree is partly a legacy of Belgium's colonial rule. Few in number, the Belgian administrators had to rely on the local elite, the Tutsis, to govern, dabbling with anthropometry, whatever that word is, the study of physical human dimensions. Many Belgians and missionaries applied it to the classification of differentiation of races. They saw the Tutsis, who had finer facial features, were taller, sometimes up to 2 meters tall, and lighter skinned than their Hutu counterparts, as a superior race. And that's what they told them. The Hutus and the Tutsis shared, listen, and still share the same culture, language, religion, and traditions. Relations between them were relatively fluid, and intermarriage was common. But after the Belgians began favoring the Tutsis, their relationship with the Hutus would change. The Tutsis were, among other things, better schooled and trained by the Belgians, who needed educated personnel to run their administration. By 1930, the Belgian authorities introduced ethnicity on Rwandan identity papers. The concepts of Hutu and Tutsi, initially social categories, would become races, and Rwandan society would slowly become ethnically split. Do you see what they did? Do you see what the wicked people did? How they divided? People who share the same culture, language, religion, and traditions, and often intermarried with each other. Wicked. Just plain wicked. I mean, I don't know what else you can say. So, of course, you know that church and state were involved, right? This says the church also played a role as the evangelical white fathers moved to convert Rwandans to Christianity. From the 1930s, it began opening its doors to the little people, mostly Hutus, while the Tutsis saw the church as an imposed element. For the Hutus, the church would become an instrument of emancipation. Just wickedness. I mean, plain wickedness. Now let's look at the scripture from Revelation 6:3-4. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Now we know that this is an end time prophecy. So we are living in those days when these things are happening. We know that it's happening because total peace has not been removed. It says he's going to take peace from the earth. These things are still in the process, still ongoing, still happening. Now, many would say these things have been happening for quite some time now. But just think about everything that's going on around the world right now, and we can see that things are getting progressively worse. It says the one who sits on this red horse will take peace from the earth, and people will begin to attack one another. So when we hear the constant reports about wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, which nations are primarily responsible for the upheaval right now? I think you all identify them, and this is by design, because when peace is removed, it will give the evil one an opportunity to implement a false sense of peace. And you all know what comes with that. This false sense of peace. It's going to require people to worship and bow down to the evil one, to the beast. Let's go on. Let's look at those responsible for all of the violence. And here's a look at countries that were involved in World Wars I and II. It involved numerous countries around the world, divided mainly into two opposing alliances, the Allies and the Central Powers in World War I, and the Allies and the Axis powers in World War II. But when you look closely, you see that the same European nations are named as the major antagonists. Why should we be surprised that these are the same people at the forefront of World War III? Why should we be surprised? We should not be surprised. And we can see how they're putting things in place for it, because they are a bloodthirsty group. This article says, how would we know if World War III had started? Talk of a global conflict may be reaching fever pitch, but the reality is that most people won't know they are in a world war until fighting is well underway. Or so history teaches us. The Second World War was simply the war until the late 40s in Britain, according to History.com, although U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt publicly declared it as such when America entered the conflict in 1941. 1941. So, would this have something to do with Trump wanting to change the name of the Department of Defense back to the Department of War? because they're putting putting things in place for chaos. It goes on to say, claims we are approaching the Third World War have long been used by leaders on all sides as a tool of diplomatic brinkmanship. Multiple changing conflicts with multi-vector loads of countries involved are a sign that the next world war has indeed already started. It has already started. Yet many argue that it is not World War III yet until the direct involvement of NATO countries, for whom the war in Ukraine remains a proxy war against the alliance's Eurasian geopolitical mega rival, said Mark Allman in The Independent. Do you all think we're already in World War III, yes or no? Look at this. Because the article says there has to be direct involvement of NATO countries. Well, look at this list of NATO countries, and you'll see that many of them have been involved in conflict for quite some time now. Quite some time. Russia's not the only one. They can say it's between Russia and Ukraine, but I mean, most people with a brain know that NATO is behind it. Most people already know that. It says NATO continues to be the transatlantic community's major security tool, and a representation of its shared democratic values. Right. It serves as a realistic link that binds North American and European security together indefinitely. Interesting. Interesting. This article from Relief Web says new data shows conflict at historic high as U.S. signals retreat from world stage. The article gives a global overview of conflict trends from 1946 to 2024. It says the world is experiencing a surge in violence not seen since the post-World War II era. 2024 marked a grim new record, the highest number of state-based armed conflicts in over 7 decades. A staggering 61 conflicts were recorded across 36 countries last year. This is not just a spike, it's a structural shift. The world today is far more violent and far more fragmented than it was a decade ago. This is from the research director at Peace Research Institute and lead author of the report. So it says now is not the time for the United States or any global power to retreat from international engagement. But who are they labeling as the most violent? The African nations, African countries. This article from The Conversation says a new world order isn't coming. It's already here. And this is what it looks like. Do you see any brown faces on that platform? What's the end game for all of these wars? A one world government with one leader. But they have to dismantle the current system, remove peace from the earth. It will require them to create chaos. And one of the ways they're doing it here in the United States is to stir up these extremist groups. Why do you think they keep talking about a race war? Why a race war? I talked about this in the session this past week, that this is the reason for them talking about who is actually an American. They're shaping the narrative. First, you're not really an American, and then you're not really a human. This administration may say that they are against the left and the liberals, but alt-right extremists need a face to tie it to. And it's evident who they go after first. I'm not telling you this so that you can be afraid. Just remember that certain things had to happen to move David to the forefront. And he wasn't shaking in his boots when he got there. He had spent some time in the secret place with the Most High. He had learned how to gird up his loins. He was prepared to face the giant. Just like Goliath, these folks are trying to gaslight us and get us to accept a narrative that is not true. Right-wing extremists drive majority of U.S. political violence. Both federal assessments and independent research reveal that the majority of political violence in the United States is attributed to right-wing individuals and groups. They were responsible for approximately 67% of extremist-related terrorist plots and attacks between 2015 and 2020. 67%, you all. I would say that's staggering. Look at this graph, this bar graph. Which group had the highest number between 1982 and 2025? The same people you all identified. But these same people are trying to gaslight us. Even when it comes to the population count, they're lying about their numbers. Their numbers are inflated because they're counting other groups to make it seem like their numbers are higher than what it really is. Let me show you what I mean. I think I covered this before. Look at this. This is the racial and ethnic population distributions. The caption says this table illustrates the shifting demographics of the entire U.S. population from 2005 to 2024. In 2025, the number for the white population was 67%. I'm sorry, in 2005, it was 67%. In 2005. In 2024, it's 56%. In that same period, Hispanics were at 15%, and then in 2024, they were at 20%. Blacks were at 12% when you round it up, and in 2024, it's showing 11%. So between the three groups here, Hispanics had a significant increase. Whites went down by 11%, and blacks pretty much stayed the same. Except for Native Americans, all other groups went up. Now, look at this information, and you're going to see how they're changing the categories to allow other groups to identify as whites to boost their numbers. This says the U.S. Census changes how it identifies people by race and ethnicity. It creates a Middle Eastern category for first time. Lebanese and India are classified as white on the U.S. Census due to historical and legal classifications that have defined these groups as part of the white racial category. Listen to why they say they're doing it. It says this classification has been in place since the early 20th century. influenced by discriminatory laws and the desire for Arab Americans to be categorized as white for citizenship eligibility. Now, if you use this logic, then you have white on white crime happening in the Middle East. If Arabs are white, this says this recent change to the census standards aim to provide a more accurate reflection of the racial and ethnic diversity of the United States, allowing individuals to self-identify and express their identity more freely. So they can just pick and choose who they want to be. Now, let me show you the deception. This information from Migration Policy Institute says immigration to the United States from India started in the early 19th century when Indian immigrants began settling in communities along the West Coast. Although they originally arrived in small numbers, new opportunities arose in when? The middle of the 20th century. Does that ring a bell? And the population grew larger in following decades. As of 2019, about 2.7 million Indian immigrants resided in the United States. Today, Indian immigrants account for approximately 6% of the U.S. foreign-born population, making them the second largest immigrant group in the country. Just pause and think on that for a second. Pause and think about what that said. Did you catch the fact that as of 2019, there are almost 2 million immigrant or Indian immigrants living in the United States? And how are they classified? They're white. Now let's keep in mind that a lot of them are much darker than us. But they account for 6% of the U.S. foreign-born population. Now, let's remember that the population chart said whites made up 56% of the population in 2024. So it's really 50%. And we're only looking at the folks from India. We didn't include folks from Lebanon, Egypt, and other countries that use the white classification. If we did, whites are way under 50%. They are not the majority. They're gaslighting. So when it's going to benefit white people, you can call yourself white. You just can't be any of us. Do you see what we're dealing with here? But yet, these deranged folks are talking about starting a race war. I can tell you that things are not going to go down the way they think it will this time. Bubba's going to be in for a rude awakening because they still don't get it that this nation was taken over a long time ago. And it was their leaders that sold them out. The leaders of both parties are owned. They jump when they're told to jump. They follow orders to go to war, to give a certain amount of money to a specific nation and basically carry out their demands. It does not resonate in the mind of the average Joe that there are external forces ruling America. These are the destroyers of peace who are manipulating things behind the scenes. And you know why white Americans can't easily identify them? It's because they look like them. They act like them. They are them. They are the same people masquerading as something else. Same people, but they can't see it. Of course, you know I have a lot more to share on these destroyers of peace, but we'll have to continue next time. So let's see what you all are talking about here. Lizette says, these principalities, rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places. Mankind, they're being played hard. Yes, they are. They are owned. They are owned. They are funding those who own them. And I mean, they are really doing a number on them. Truth Seeking with Veronica says, India population at the DMV checked white. Also, I actually brought it to their attention that they are not white. Well, now they can carry the label, because they need the numbers. There you go, Michael. There you go. They are them. That's why they can't tell the difference. Brother Harold said, same bird, different wings. Council's girl, some of my palm-colored neighbors have fled. According to, says, yes, the crafty council crew. The whole truth, so help me out. And by the way, I still need to go over the flyer that you sent to me, so I'll take a look at that sometime this week. He said their children are getting theirs from the internet, just Black children. Getting their, are you saying their information? Let's see. Roberta says, either way, the Most High Yah has his Gibborim who are coming, and I believe their targets won't be us. Phantom, it's happening. They don't run this nation. They think they do. They think they do. This is why we're still at 13. Yeah, and they're lying about that too. They need us. They need to maintain that number. It's either 12 or 13%. They're lying about that too. Like I said, things are not going to go down the way they think it will. Not this time, Bubba. Brother Charles says these other people are willing participants in these deceptive games. They most certainly are. That's why they say things like see you in Valhalla. Anyway, we won't go there. Lizette says, yes, you have a lot of Latinos checking off white. There you go, Eliza. There you go. Black Butterfly, I'm not believing those numbers. A group outside the U.S. actually has our numbers at 52%. This is why the strong push. Yeah, I definitely believe that they are lying about our numbers. I don't believe those numbers, not for a second. And, they have a hard time getting the numbers on our men. They're just not participating in those surveys. So they really don't know how many there are. No, Pharaoh's guessing. Dear Ladyful, we didn't make it this far on our own. I know that's right. I know that's right. He said there will always be a remnant of us. Yes, he did. The Most High certainly has preserved for himself a remnant. Ivan says they're going to dig that ditch and they're going to fall right into it. That's what I'm praying. Every trap that they lay for us, they're going to walk into it. Every ditch that they dig for us, they're going to fall into it. All of these plans, these wicked plans that they're laying for us, because they think they're going to do certain things, it's going to be them. I said, it may have been like a month or two ago when I was talking about how they were fostering hate in their young people. And I was saying you're going to see a rise of them turning on them. And it's happening. It's happening. Because think about what they're doing. They're teaching them to hate on one hand. They're training them to use all of these weapons. But on the other, they're talking about Christianity and we just need to love everybody and God loves everybody. The children are confused. They don't know what to believe. But that hate is now springing up because they planted a seed and it's backfiring. It's backfiring. And they're going to see it more and more. Oba, okay, I'm going to try on this one. Obakan says, I know an Arabic man from Algeria who was classified as white on his driver's license. A lot of them, a lot of Egyptians, and a lot of them are just darker than us, plain and simple. They get to carry that classification as well. Council's girl, yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, it's just what it is. So they're trying to gaslight us. Chris says, then they would have to admit the Messiah was not white after they said the Arabs aren't white. Oh, well, you know, they can't do that. Megyn Kelly said, he has to be white because Santa is white. You all remember that? Oh my gosh. A Hebrew in business. So they are way less of the population, always have been. Yes, they have. They're lying. They're lying big time. Big time. Self-deceived people. Self-deceived. Oh no, you went there, mankind. Their numbers actually reduced further since most of them have been raptured. Now see, you need to quit. Oh my gosh. L. Williams, their forefathers have done them a great disservice. They have lied to them just like they lied to and about us for sure. Jeremiah 16:19 is in full effect. Oh my word. You all, you have to laugh at the foolishness because it's foolishness. It's just straight up foolishness. The more they try to erase us, to demean us, everything they do, it backfires. And it's going to continue to increase against them. Billy G says that 13% should be flipped around to at least 31. As I said, we know they're lying. If you all have not hit the like button, please go ahead and do that. And again, if you appreciate the information that's being shared, you're welcome to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Shava says, yes, that's true. We're everywhere. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Sister Almond, you saying it's higher as well. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, come on now. Enough with the lies. Enough with the lies. That's what we're dealing with. Fork tongue folks. And for those among them who have really had an encounter with the Most High, they need to speak out a lot more. They really do. They need to speak out a lot more, because these things are being written down. They're being recorded. They're being recorded. We already know that certain things have to happen so that they can identify with their fathers who did the deeds here in this land. Certain things must happen. The children are identifying with the fathers. But those who truly have a heart of repented, they've repented and they have the fruit to show it. They need to speak up. They need to talk to their people. Sister Cece says they're finding out that they have inherited lies. Most certainly. Most certainly. We're going to get a few more, then we're going to wrap up here. Roberta says this country got sold out by their own hands to the deep state back in the 30s or 40s. Too late to try to turn this mess around. It really is. I mean, they should be able to see it. I mean, really, they should be able to see. These politicians in these leadership roles, they're not making these decisions. They should be able to see that by now. If they can't see it, then they want to be deceived. Because I mean, it's in plain sight. All right, let's see what else we have here. B. Francis says their reproduction been on the fruit since the 1900s. The numbers are definitely incorrect. Yeah, I don't believe those numbers at all. I have not believed it for a while now. It's not adding up. So they just need to stop with gaslighting. Let's see. James says, I think this is their playbook, all 72 demons of the ARS. Goetia explained in obsessive detail. Okay. Ancient of Days. During slavery, we outnumbered them 4-1, so there's no way we're only 13%. The great delusion it is. But family, keep your head up. Also watch and pray. Be careful. Be aware of what's going on in your surroundings. Know what's happening. Because as I said, some of them are deranged. And if you listen to the last two sessions, you see we're dealing with people with split personalities. One day they're one way, the next day they're beasts. So you need to know. You need to know. Take the time to watch and observe. Pay attention. Watch the fruit. Don't be so quick to say, this is my friend. You need to let some things prove itself out. You really do. And again, we can't say all. We know that it's not all. But a large majority believe these things, behave this way. So be careful when you're traveling, especially our sisters. You don't want to be traveling alone. Be careful. Be careful. You need to watch as well as pray. All right. As I said, I have a lot more to share on these destroyers of peace, but we'll have to pick it up next time. So again, hit the like button for us if you have not already done so, family. Be blessed and join me next time.